Well, Uncle Dan,
Yeah.
we three live in a place that I would describe as anything but flat.
Yes, indeed.
Right? We have purpled mountains majesty.
It's true. It's true.
And although we do have one of the flattest spots on Earth not far from here.
Yeah. It's true. As a matter of fact, if you go to Wendover, Nevada, or West Wendover, Utah, you will get to see if you go to their, they have a tourism little shack
yeah,
that you can go to. And one of the tourist attractions that they'll tell you about is, one of the bullet points is titled simply, Curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's a flat place. It's a very flat place.
Right.
Right? Doug, you know about flat places.
Well, do indeed. Dear uncles, I have been putting off this subject since the earliest days of this podcast because it is so dumb, so asinine that one cannot help but come away from researching this dumber and less hopeful about our species than when one started.
We have a few of those subjects, and it's like we all know we've got to do it at some point, and none of us want to pull the card.
Exactly.
Right.
I was really hoping.
It was like when I did the BYU electroshock program. I'm like, I don't want to do it. We got to do it.
I was hoping that one of you would take this on and spare me the few precious brain cells I have left.
Nope.
Alas, you both failed me.
I was too busy ruining my own with the Book of Mormon. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Yeah. You both failed me. So today, let's just get it the fuck over with and let's talk about flat eartherism. Yeah, this is so dumb. Okay. In a nutshell, modern flat earthers believe that the Earth is a flat disk surrounded by the Antarctic ice wall, several hundred feet tall, surrounding the entire edge of the disk,
oh my God,
covered with a huge glass dome. If you want to go online and Google flat Earth, model flat Earth, and look at it's pretty ubiquitous. It's one of the few things that all flat earthers, all adhere to is this model.
They all believe this, or for the most part, huh?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, the glass dome model is extremely.
It's a terrarium,
and they actually refer to it as a terrarium at times. Yeah. The sun and the moon are small objects under the dome that rotate around the disk, which gives us day and night.
Shut up.
And of course, this truth has been hidden from the populace by take your pick: NASA, the royal family, big oil, big pharma, the Vatican, and before you ask, yes, the Jews.
Obviously,
this is
what we need Cody to do every time we mention the Jews in a conspiracy theory. We need a little klezmer sting. They're like a little clarinet.
I'm going to start a band called Klezmer Sting.
Oh, this is all such nonsense, and as we'll talk about, every one of these beliefs are crazy and easily disprovable and stand in opposition to all available science. However, as we'll discuss, this is not nearly the insurmountable issue for flat earthers as it should be. Firstly, remember, the actual truth is being suppressed. Therefore, one should only rely on experimentation and evidence that one can perform and observe themselves.
Unless it doesn't go right, in which case, don't rely on that one.
Fantastic point, exactly. The experiments that have been suggested and performed by flat earthers all over the globe are at once ridiculous and pathetic, but more on that in a couple minutes. It is the fundamental mistrust of our current body of scientific evidence that allows flat earthers to exist. The belief, now let's go back a little bit, the belief that the Earth is flat is ubiquitous in human history because it looks flat.
Yeah.
The size of the Earth being what it is, 79,017 miles in diameter, or 24,901 miles in circumference. Whew. No matter how high one were to climb on any mountain in the world, one cannot see the curvature of the Earth from its surface. It's too big. To the ancient mind, it's the same reason that everyone believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, because it looks and feels like the Earth is not moving, and the sun and stars rotate around our fixed point. I mean, it's logical to think the Earth was flat before you had any reason to doubt that it was.
Right.
Right, but you also think it's dark when your eyes are closed.
Exactly.
And then you open them and you're like, oh, holy shit, it's not dark. Wait, hold on, it is again. Wait, now it's not.
Now, because the Earth looked flat to the naked eye, nearly all ancient models of the Earth were flat. And therefore, any reference to the Earth in ancient texts, which unfortunately include the Bible, refer to the Earth as a flat plane or disk. This will, sadly, come back to bite us in the ass in stupid ways thousands of years later.
You say disc, but I've read parts of the Bible, and one part says it has 4 corners. So
Exactly.
I say it's a square.
That's exactly right. The Bible is not clear on the nature of the earth, as it is not clear on many things. But you're right. One of them refers to it as a disc, and one of them refers to it having 4 corners. But that's not our problem to
It's one
solve
of those
here.
discs with corners. That's what I hadn't taken that into account. I apologize.
There you go. The ancient Greek philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras is credited with being the first person to propose that the Earth was a sphere in the 6th century BCE. Legend has it that his study of the moon led him to understand that it was not a disk, but spherical, and then so logically was the Earth as well. Since then, every scientific breakthrough has proven this hypothesis true. Within years of Pythagoras, contemporary astronomers saw that the shadow of the Earth on the moon during a lunar eclipse was round. In the 3rd century BCE, so not long after Pythagoras, Aristophanes not only proved that the Earth was round, but predicted its circumference to within 1 degree.
Wow.
Yeah. These were smart people. Then, of course, Ferdinand Magellan and Juan Sebastian Elcano completed the first circumnavigation of the Earth in 1522. And now, of course, we have orbited the Earth, landed on the moon, and watched our spherical Earth rise over the lunar horizon, and sent probes to the furthest reaches of our solar system, which have sent back countless images of Earth, and even video of the moon orbiting our blue dot.
You don't believe that, do you, sheeple?
Or have we? Yes, we have. Here's the thing about this, and it's the fundamental difference between actual science and conspiracy theory. The Earth does indeed look flat, like I mentioned before. The idea, as embedded as it is in our brains today, that the Earth is a sphere was very hard to wrap your head around 2,500 years ago. But that's what the evidence and data suggested. It was to many terrifying to realize that we were living on an enormous sphere, just as it was terrifying to learn only a generation ago that we are living on a series of fractured stone plates, sliding over a sea of magma, or that the universe is not just expanding but accelerating, and we don't yet know why. But that's what the evidence and data suggested. But because it was hard to comprehend, and if one relies only on what their own eyes can see, the flat Earth model persisted for centuries in different cultures around the world. In fact, it lasted in China until the 17th century. But at the dawn of the 18th century forward, we put away childish things that our ancestors believed, including, but not thankfully limited to, the flat Earth. Although seemingly a thing of the past, the flat Earth model never fully disappeared. There were some, mostly laboring under biblical literalism, who still kept the flame alive. Among them were Washington Irving, author of Rip Van Winkle and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Oh, I know, it's kind of weird, among others. Then in 1849, an author named Samuel Rowbotham published what would become the founding document and sacred text of flat earthers to this day, Zetetic Astronomy. This is a compendium of several scriptural references to the flat earth and laughably insufficient experiments proving the same. This book led directly to the founding of the first Flat Earth Society in 1956 in Dover, England, by a guy named Samuel Shenton. Remember, this society was founded just 1 year before the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, which orbited the Earth, sending down a signal as it went.
Yeah. I do take great pleasure whenever one of the really, really stupid things in the world happens not in the United States of America. Can I just say that makes me happy.
On that rare day.
Yeah.
I know. I'm always happy when someone does something stupid in Arkansas or India because it's not here.
Yeah, it's not Utah.
So confronted with this evidence of the orbiting satellite, man-made satellite, Shenton would launch what would become the prime directive of all flat earthers, denial of science and laughable counter-theorizing. He said, quote, "Would sailing round the Isle of Wight prove that it were spherical? It is just the same for those satellites." So there you go. We're off.
Boom. Got us.
Yeah. Although the flat Earth model would never went away, and even though it had a text of its own and now an official society to promulgate it, it consisted of a vanishingly small number of people, like hundreds of people, and existed on the edges of polite society with its cousins like necromancy or glass looking. Then came the age of the internet. History will be the judge, but it seems that the last few years have certainly cast into doubt whether, on balance, the internet will be seen as a net positive or net negative for the human species. With the internet, particularly YouTube, the flat Earth conspiracy has exploded over the last several years. 7 or 8 years, really. Flat Earth YouTube channels exist with tens of thousands of subscribers, with some somewhat well-produced content, some very, very badly produced content. Likewise, debunking channels and websites have grown apace with the flat Earth content. Although we'll talk about this later on, the harder people try to debunk this shit, and the more prominent the debunkers, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, among others, the more credibility some find in the conspiracy, which is the fucking insanity of these conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Well, it just proves it. You give it oxygen, and you've just proven it.
What do? It's like cancer. You know what I mean? You can't ignore it,
right?
But you also can't reason with it. So there's no reliable census on the actual number of flat Earth adherents, but the estimated number ranges from several million to several tens of millions worldwide. Part of the problem is that, like most conspiracy theories, believers are pretty decentralized, and the community is constantly schisming and reforming, and adherents range in belief from having doubts about the spherical Earth to being 100% convinced that the Earth is flat.
Right.
But it's at least possible that there are more people now who believe the Earth is flat than there are Mormons or Jews.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I was going to guess it was probably in the 10-ish million range.
Yeah, and it is unfortunately growing. There are many who are vying for the title of leader of the flat Earth community and all the notoriety and poontang that comes along with that moniker. But two of the most ubiquitous faces in the community are Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer, whose documentaries and YouTube content have reached millions worldwide. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the specific beliefs of flat earthers, how they justify these beliefs, and at the same time dismiss the existing science that flatly, pun intended, debunk their beliefs, and the myriad contortions that must be made to do just that. Firstly, let's look at the evidence for the flat Earth. Ready? Here goes. Hey, look over there. I can see mountains. Ipso facto flat Earth. There it is.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the extent of it.
Oh.
Now let's delve into...
Well, also, I mean, I think you're being a bit disingenuous.
Just a bit.
The Bible.
Also the Bible. Very good point. Yep. And a lot of them, like biblical literalism, is the only reason that flat Earth made it to today.
Right.
Yep. And many believe flat earthers dovetail with Christian communities and other religious communities that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, dreams really do come true, I guess.
Yeah. So now let's delve into the specific beliefs, okay? A main and fundamental problem for the idea of a flat Earth is gravity. Gravity is caused by mass, and although the observable gravity of Earth is consistent with that of a spherical body, meaning if you calculate the mass of a round spherical Earth, you would predict the amount of gravity that we indeed do have based on the theory, right? And that is consistent with the other observable bodies in the solar system and their gravitational pulls. It is not consistent, however, with a flat disk. One prominent explanation is constant acceleration. They maintain that the Earth is constantly accelerating upward at 9.8 meters per second squared, which is in fact the speed an object moves when dropped.
Right.
This acceleration, which gives us the appearance of gravity, is caused by a universal accelerator pushing on the bottom of the disk known as dark energy or etheric wind. What or who is causing this wind, what it is made out of, is not a problem that flat earthers feel needs explanation. The main problem, of course, with this idea is that at a constant acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared, it would take less than 1 year to surpass the speed of light.
Right. Yeah, you can't keep accelerating forever.
No, you cannot. But never fear, flat earthers have an explanation for that too. Ready? Relativity. That's it. They don't explain how that helps them, just that it exists. So another explanation is that part of the Earth, the part of the Earth that we exist on is a flat disk, but what lies beneath our feet is much more robust. Think of it like a broken stalactite. We live our lives on the flat disk at the top, but the stony mass beneath our feet extends hundreds or thousands of miles down, which gives the disk the sufficient gravity consistent with the mass of a spherical Earth.
I hate this. I just hate it. I hate it. Yeah.
Still others argue that it's not gravity or acceleration that makes things stick to the surface of the Earth, but buoyancy and atmospheric pressure. Honestly, this was a rabbit hole so stupid I only dipped my toe. But this particular explanation is not even widely accepted by flat earthers.
Oh my God. I love the idea that we're just sinking.
Exactly. I mean, it is. They like, well, underwater things sink. So in atmospheric pressure, things sink. No, that's as far as I'm going with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What about the sun and moon? We see the sun rise over the horizon in the morning and dip below the opposite horizon in the evening, as does the moon, but on a different schedule. This would seem to be
atheists.
This would seem to be somewhat problematic for flat earthers, and it is. But it leads us to one of the most infuriatingly self-contradictory and silly beliefs in flat eartherism. As stated before, the sun is a small, localized light source that rotates around the flat disk, acting like a spotlight, giving us the appearance of day and night. The sun is said to be according to some sources, the sun is said to be roughly 50 kilometers in diameter.
Oh my God.
And hangs about 5,500 kilometers above the surface of the Earth.
Oh my God.
However, and obviously, if the Earth was flat, a light source at that height would be visible from everywhere all the time.
I'm looking at one of the models online, right? There's a terrarium,
Yeah.
and it's got the glass bubble over it, and it's got the stupid ice wall, and the sun and the moon are in the same fucking sky
Yeah.
over a flat area.
Yeah.
The sun would never be off. The sun would never go away.
You'd always see it, and it would never dip below the horizon.
No, it'd never go below. It would just go around and around in the sky.
Right. There is no horizon on the flat Earth for it to dip behind in the first place.
No, the shadows of trees would just go around in circles.
Exactly.
All forever.
Exactly. So
You guys are outraged. I love it.
I'm so fucking angry about this.
the explanation for this, and this will come up a lot, is atmospheric interference. Just like when you look out over long distances in the desert, the rising hot air from the Earth's surface distorts and even hides objects from our limited view.
Well, that's driven by heat.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God.
If you're going to try and find consistency in this, you're going to break your brain.
Consider it broken.
So what are these tiny sources of light made of? How do they float under the dome? From flat earthers' perspective, that sounds like a whole lot of not my problem. What then are we to make of other celestial bodies that we can clearly observe and that are obviously spherical? With nothing more than a moderately powerful pair of binoculars, one can see the rotation of Jupiter in real time, marking the movement of the Great Red Spot. You can see the body rotate. With the aid of an easily purchased telescope, the same is true of dozens of celestial bodies in our solar system. Okay, well, to get out of this conundrum, flat earthers simply concede that all the other bodies in the solar system are indeed spherical. It's just the Earth that is flat.
God, why?
Suckers.
Why? Like, okay. The gravitational planetary aggregation, right?
Right.
Physics at some point are kind of simple in a way. So 8 or 7 planets, sorry Pluto, happened this way, but the third one didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And who made the glass dome?
Put a pin in that because we'll get there.
Okay.
Because I do want to discuss that, and you're not going to like the answer. Let me put it. Let me spoiler alert. Okay.
You're not gonna like
Do we need a
any
little
of this.
clarinet sting right there?
All right. What about ship and plane navigation? For thousands of years, sailing ships have used the spherical Earth to navigate between points on the globe.
Yes.
Okay, on the flat Earth model, for example, the distance between the southern tips of Africa and South America are many times further apart than they actually are, right? Sailors provision their ships for the distance predicted on the round body, not the distance predicted on the flat Earth model.
Right.
Likewise for planes and their loads of fuel. Right, if you take you measure the distance on the globe between the Cape of Good Hope and whatever South Africa,
Yeah.
and you get enough fuel to fly that distance or provision your ship for that. If it's the flat Earth model, you will die about a quarter of the way. Right?
Yeah.
So, they don't have a great explanation for this one, except that increased fuel consumption by motorized ships and airplanes lines the pocket of big oil.
Oh, yeah. See, you're just buying into their narrative now.
Wake up, sheeple. Shall we talk about the ice wall? Let's talk about the ice wall.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
this is where we get all Game of Thrones. I love it.
Exactly. The entire flat Earth disk is surrounded by a giant ice wall, some several hundred feet tall, which is Antarctica on our silly globe model. And flat earthers gleefully describe it as similar to the wall in Game of Thrones. This wall is what prevents the oceans from simply flowing off the sides of the disk.
And what prevents humans from ever getting over the edge somehow.
Well, and it's not, yes, but
Except that we've been all over Antarctica.
Well, that's if you believe the photos. So the discovery and publication of this wall would seem to be the holy grail for flat earthers, right? It would prove positively that their hypothesis is true. Well, it turns out that getting close to this ice wall is harder than it would seem, as it's guarded by heavily armed and trigger-happy NASA agents.
Yes.
And those poor...
Oh my God, these guys with their horn-rimmed glasses and slide rules and pocket protectors are out there fucking...
Well, and spare a thought for a second to how many, like, tens of thousands of NASA agents it would take to man a wall that extends around the entirety of the flat Earth.
And all you ever hear is stories like when Anthony Bourdain tried to go somewhere being turned back by zodiacs full of murderous NASA employees.
Well, to put a pin in that one, because those poor souls that somehow managed to make the journey are captured and mentally reprogrammed to forget what they have seen.
Oh, of course they will.
I should have guessed.
How about the dome? How big is it? What's it made of? How come it remains perfectly transparent and does not get dirty on the inside due to pollution or on the outside due to cosmic dust? Why do we not see the reflection of the sun in it or of large cities at night? These would seem to be pretty fundamental questions, but surprisingly...
Why do meteorites pass through it?
Right, it's durable enough that meteorites bounce off it, but flat earthers don't spend a lot of time on this particular corner of the flat Earth. The size of the dome is a source of much disagreement, however. Some have the top of the dome only several thousand feet above sea level, while others place it thousands of kilometers in order to account for Mount Everest and air travel.
Oh my God.
This brings us to the most fundamental question of this whole cesspool of derp. Uncle Mark, you asked it. Who and why?
Right.
Flat earthers eagerly concede that the flat Earth is not a natural phenomenon, but that it was created by a higher power. The vast majority believe that it was the God of the Bible, as you said, Uncle Dan, who built this cosmic snow globe. But there is no shortage of alien theories or interdimensional theories as well. But flat earthers universally believe that it was constructed and must have been done so for a purpose. As for the why would some higher power create a flat disk with a very resilient self-cleaning glass dome and hurl it through the cosmos? Why would this power do it in such a way as to fool the sentient inhabitants of this menagerie into thinking the world is spherical?
Who are perfectly capable of discovering the truth of it.
Yeah, exactly.
With our science.
Exactly. What is the point of all this?
Right.
Flat earthers vary on the answer to these questions, but where they pretty much all agree is that these power... Again, I don't think any two flat earthers could completely agree as the why, but they all 100% agree that the powers that be know about the flat Earth, probably know why it is, and are managing a global conspiracy to keep that knowledge hidden. So,
yeah.
I know if your brain's not hurting enough yet, let's talk a bit about the experiments that are suggested by flat earthers to prove the Earth is flat and that have been attempted by others.
Sure.
One suggested experiment is to take a level on a commercial airliner.
Yes, and I've seen videos, so many videos of people doing this.
If the Earth is flat and one places a level on their tray table, the bubble will stay right between the guidelines. However, if the Earth is truly curved, the plane will constantly have to be flying in a nose-down position to keep from flying off into space.
No.
Leaving aside the obvious fact that the obvious fact that level is a matter of perspective, and that the size of the jet airplane, let alone a small level, are so small compared to the size of the Earth, such that the Earth's curve would be imperceptible. Leaving all that aside, has anyone ever been on a plane with a perfectly level tray table?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got you beat on that one because I did see a video where they went into the aisle and put it on the floor.
I saw that too. But of course, again, like their notion of their whole shtick is like, I can see mountains over there, therefore the Earth is flat, even though I can't see the ones further along because of atmospheric interference.
Right.
A plane flying in a straight line would just fly away from the Earth. God help me. Okay. One man, Mad Mike Hughes, decided to put his money where his mouth was and tried to reach
formerly of Flat Earth.
Formerly of Flat Earth. He tried to reach the glass dome himself in his homemade steam-powered rocket. Hughes, who before his ill-fated Icarus impersonation held the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest limousine jump in history of 31 meters.
That's a good one.
He jumped over the limousine, or the limousine was the thing that he used to jump?
He jumped his limousine 31 meters.
Oh, my God.
In February of last year, he lit the fuse on his rocket to escape the surly bonds of Earth and touch the face of God. His rocket soared to an astounding altitude of 1,875 feet before falling back to Earth, killing Hughes, and proving nothing except dumb ideas can be deadly.
Can we nickname him Derple Canurple?
I'll bet the Earth feels pretty flat when you're coming at it about 190 miles an hour.
Exactly.
He flattened right along with it.
Yeah. Exactly. Many of the other experiments attempted by flat earthers have been comically contradictory. For example, they came up with the very testable idea that if the Earth completes one full rotation every 24 hours, then every hour it has to rotate 15 degrees. That's true. Therefore, if you have a gyroscope sensitive enough on any point on the Earth, if the Earth is rotating, you would get a 15-degree inclination in the gyroscope. Now, this won't work with just your store-bought toy gyroscopes. They're not nearly sensitive enough for that kind of thing. But there are gyroscopes that are, and they're called ring laser gyroscopes. So this community of flat earthers bought one for $20,000.
Yeah, these are made for like aviation. These are made for like airplanes,
missile guidance and stuff.
Missile guidance and stuff like that. Very, very delicate pieces of equipment and expensive. So when they bought this thing and they turned it on, incredibly, it registered an exact inclination of 15 degrees. But as we'll talk about, these people are not in search of the truth. They are in search of evidence confirming what they already believe. Therefore, and I'm not making this up, this experiment proved nothing to them except that Big Gyroscope is in on the conspiracy.
Right.
I'm not making that up.
Because the thing about missiles is
against is evidence for. Eventually,
the thing about missiles is you would rather they not hit their targets so that these people aren't proved right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and this is their go-to for any evidence that contradicts their model. It's just all part of the conspiracy.
Right.
So if you back them into a corner, that's where they're going to go. Their favorite punching bag, for obvious reasons, is NASA, but they will, with alacrity, toss in anybody who tries to debunk them into the conspiracy, right?
Sure.
As I mentioned before...
We're in there now. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. Look, that's great company to be in, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Truly. As I mentioned before, many people, even prominent ones, have tried to debunk this lunacy. There are video after video on YouTube of astrophysicists, astronomers, mathematicians, and even astronauts debating flat earthers, and the results are nauseating.
Yeah.
Whatever evidence or arguments or science is presented by these people they're just simply discarded out of hand by flat earthers. No matter how good the arguments, it seems to have no effect. Scientists have even taken flat earthers out to run experiments in real time. A group of physicists even took the aforementioned Mark Sargent and a group of flat earthers to the Salton Sea to run an experiment. They drove a rubber dinghy straight away from the observers with a striped flag. If the Earth is curved, then as the boat crests and then passes the horizon, the stripes on the flag will start to disappear below the horizon, one by one. The experiment played out exactly as predicted, and everyone was watching with their own binoculars, so nothing could have been tampered with, and one of the flat earthers even was confirming that the flag had not been lowered. In the face of real-time, undeniable debunking, the flat earthers simply dismissed the phenomenon as atmospheric interference. After watching their conspiracy debunked right before their eyes, Sargent asked his fellow dopes if this proved them wrong, and exactly none of them raised their hands.
Wow.
You could see the scientists deflate before your eyes in real time. It was just like, fuck. Another quick one. If you hike to the top of Mauna Kea, the highest peak in Hawaii, and look west, on a flat Earth, you should be able to see the highest peak of Kauai, Kauai-Kini, only 303 miles away. But you can't because the Earth is round. Flat Earthers were invited to hike Mauna Kea and see for themselves. Again, they merely dismissed this as atmospheric interference. It's maddening.
Yeah.
And these online discussions nearly always become heated. The frustration of scientists not only trying to explain the evidence of the round Earth, but the scientific method itself, to people who are equal parts confident and ignorant, nearly always get the best of them. I haven't seen a single one. I've never seen a single mind changed. And try as I might, and I'm sure I might have missed this, but I couldn't find any former flat earthers. Like, it's just not a community. And
to be perfectly honest, like, if you were a flat earther, if you believed something utterly ridiculous and then it was proven to you and you actually accepted reality, you're not going to want to, like, talk a lot about that time period in your life.
Now,
it's kind of like being an ex-Nazi. You probably just want all that to go away.
Truly.
Right.
Now, in and of itself, flat eartherism would seem to be somewhat harmless, and I guess it is. However, the belief in the flat earth, which is itself avowedly anti-intellectual, links directly to anti-evolution conspiracies because they don't believe the earth is old enough, anti-moon landing conspiracies because obviously, and anti-vax conspiracies because that's all part of how they keep us in control. Taken as a whole, these conspiracies are actively threatening public education and public health.
Yeah.
And as we're in the throes of a global pandemic, this kind of thinking can be extremely fatal.
Yeah.
So I'll conclude with this because it goes a long way to help explain not only flat earthers, but QAnon, hollow earthers, hollow mooners, and even religious people. Mark, you sent me an op-ed in the New York Times the other day by Thomas Edsel that talked about
very good
op-ed that talked about the resilience of conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
The op-ed was specifically discussing QAnon, but it's just as applicable here. Edsel quoted Jovan Byford, a senior lecturer in psychology at the Open University in England, who said, quote, "Conspiracy theories seduce not so much through the power of argument, but through the intensity of the passions that they stir. Underpinning conspiracy theories are feelings of resentment, indignation, and disenchantment about the world. They are stories about good and evil as much as they are about what is true." He goes on to say, "Lack of evidence of a conspiracy or positive proof against its existence is taken by believers as evidence of the craftiness of those behind the plot and their ability to dupe the public." So, our minds break trying to come up with ways to explain that this is lunacy, but all we're doing is reinforcing what they believe, which is insane.
That same article pointed out that there are a lot of people who believe in completely contradictory things about the same subject.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, for instance, what was it, Doug? That Diana.
If you believe that Diana was murdered, you're more likely to believe that she faked her own death.
Right. Princess Diana.
Princess Diana. Yeah. Like that's insane. That's so crazy.
And I think another thing that I got out of that article is, in a weird way, for a lot of these believers, it doesn't matter what the conspiracy theory is. Right?
Not at all.
It could be anything.
Once you believe one, you're so likely to believe any or all, or it's just it's almost a way of being. It's not a belief system so much as it is a sort of mode of humaning.
Yeah. These people don't typically live in just one of these conspiracies. They live in many of them.
Well, so Doug and I have a friend who's just one of these people who's a recalcitrant personality. And so this is what I wonder about conspiracy theory believers. How many of them really believe it? And how many of them are just kind of dickish trolls that stake out an absurd position and then love driving everybody crazy by dying on that hill?
Yeah.
Right.
I do think there's a percentage that are that.
Yeah.
But in watching way too many YouTube videos by these people and them debating debunkers, they seem pretty fucking sincere.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is very harsh. Okay,
well,
there you go. There's flat Earth. You got to live on it.
We're a stupid country.
We're a stupid species here riding on this disc below us.
Yes.
Is that what being a disc jockey is?
It is.
That is. Oh my God, you've cracked it wide open.
Let's get out of here.
All right, Doug. Well, thank God we got that over with.
Indeed.
All right, let's move on.
Let's move on.